The Milwaukee County Park System prides itself on providing recreation to residents of Milwaukee County. All over the city and county, there is green space that has been renovated to include trails, boat docks, playgrounds. No. Hello, my YouTube family, and welcome. On this video today, I'll be taking you guys around the city, showing you guys the history. The HOP, also known as the Milwaukee Streetcar, is a modern streetcar system in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. The 2 to 1 mile, 3.4 kilometer initial line connects the Milwaukee Intermodal Station and downtown to the Lower East Side and historic 3rd Ward neighborhoods. A 0.4 mile, 640 meter lakefront branch to the proposed Culture high-rise development has been mostly constructed but is not projected to open until late 2022. The system is owned by the city and operated by Transdev. Construction of the system began in late 2016 and was completed in summer 2018. Service to the public began on November 2nd, 2018. In 1960, Milwaukee opened the first line of its original streetcar system using horse-drawn streetcars. The system continued to grow in the late 19th century and into the early 20th century, culminating in a large network of electric streetcar lines. After World War II, the federal government invested heavily in the development of an interconnected interstate highway system and raised taxes on private railway and streetcar operators. A copy of my latest work. Oh, copyright. I'm so sorry. When the Interstate Highway Act passed that more damage would be done to American cities in the next 10 years than all the bombing the Germans did to European cities during World War II. On March 2nd, 1958, the city's last streetcar route was closed. The northern terminus of the M line is Burns Commons, Ogden Avenue, and Prospect. I asked him permission if I could just film the video, put it on YouTube, and he said it's alright. Jackson Street turns west on Kilbourne Avenue, then splits southbound. Streetcars follow North Broadway, while northbound streetcars follow North Milwaukee Street. After crossing the Milwaukee River, the line then follows West Street, Paul Avenue in both directions to North 4th Street, terminating at the Milwaukee Intermodal Station. The total journey length is 2.1 miles, 3.4 kilometers. Kiosk displaying real-time arrival times are installed at the Intermodal Station, Cathedral Square, and Burns Common Station. The future L line is expected to use the tracks of the M line along Milwaukee Street and Broadway to make a loop around downtown, then branch to North Lincoln Memorial Drive via East Michigan Street and East Claiborne Street. By June 2018, it had been constructed except for its outermost section, where delays to the start of work on the Culture prevented finishing construction. In fall of 2018, it was expected to commence service in late 2020. Of the 2.1 mile, 3.4 kilometer length of the M line, 3,300 feet, 1 kilometer is not equipped with overhead wires. The streetcars cover these sections along Kilbourne Avenue and Jackson Street, powered only by their batteries. About 2/3 of the track sections that will be brought into use later for the L line will be also unwired. Funding and approval. The total cost to construct the streetcar was estimated in 2015 to be $123.9 million, equivalent to $141.64 million in 2021. The project was approved by the Milwaukee Common Council on January 21st, 2015, and upheld on February 10th, 2015, by a vote of 10 to 5. In October 2015, the project received a federal grant which will cover approximately half the cost of a spur to the lakefront. Initial route plans had streetcars run only northbound on Van Buren Street and only southbound on Jackson Street. In February 2016, this split was removed to reduce utility relocation costs. In mid-April 2016, the city invited bids for the construction of the project's first phase. With a June 1st due date for proposals at that time, it was estimated that construction could begin in the late summer or early fall 2016 and be completed in 2018. The Milwaukee County Park System prides itself on providing recreation to residents of Milwaukee County. All over the city and county there is green space that has been renovated to include trails, boat docks, playgrounds, picnic areas, and covered shelters. The parks offer a place for families to gather, sports to be played, and the natural of beauty of this city by Lake Michigan to be enjoyed. One of the standout members of this park system is Veterans Park in downtown Milwaukee, situated directly on the shore of Lake Michigan. The park is busy on spring and summer weekends, and it has also played host to various events throughout the years. When the Harley-Davidson Motorcycle Company hosted its 100th anniversary celebration, the festivities, including a performance by Elton John, was held in Veterans Park. Located on the park's south end is the Milwaukee Art Museum. Just a few steps away from the park and the museum are Discovery World Children's Museum and the Henry Maier Fairgrounds, which is the site of Summerfest, Milwaukee's annual music festival, as well as multiple ethnic festivals throughout the summer. The north end of the park features a large marina with a lagoon lying between. Those sailing on Lake Michigan have a perfect view of Veterans Park, and park goers have a mostly uninterrupted view of the lake. The lakefront may be Milwaukee's best feature. Many of Milwaukee's most eclectic neighborhoods lie on the lake, and some are within walking distance of the park. There are organized boat tours that travel up and down the shoreline, most of which start in the Milwaukee River and sail out to the lake. Those who are looking for a decent walk around the lake can start at the south end of the Veterans Park and follow the paths up to the marina. These walks may inspire people to practice fitness. The views are so enticing. You can continue northway from the park to Bradford Beach. You can also find free parking at the beach and walk down to the park. One breezy spring afternoons, you will find a number of local residents flying kites. There is a kite stand in the park where you can find replacement parts and new kites. Not only are kite enthusiasts and fitness walkers in the park, you will also find bikers, rollerbladers, and joggers. Many people pack a picnic lunch and relax in the grass by the lake. The area can be inspirational for local artists, and on a calm day, you may find a variety of people painting and sketching the lakefront views. Some even bring easels to the park, taking advantage of the natural surroundings. Public restrooms can be found at the top of the hill where the Veterans Memorial Building is located. This is also a great place to cool off after a hot summer stroll. Take a few minutes to peruse the awards and medals that are featured in the building's displays. Milwaukee's lakefront is one of the best features of Wisconsin. The next time you are in the area, take a stroll through Veterans Park and enjoy the lake. Within months of America's entrance into World War I, Wisconsin became labeled the traitor state. An epithet it did not manage to shake while the war was being fought. The editor of the Louisville Courier Journal, Kentucky, may have been the first to describe the state in such a way, when in a July 17, 1917, editorial, he asked, "Will Wisconsin be known when the war is over as the traitor state?" The national belief in Wisconsin's disloyalty peaked in the spring of 1918 at the time of a continuous state election. Evidence of the state's position could be seen in comments from the Montgomery Advertiser, Alabama, describing the state as the American hotbed of disloyalty. The Los Angeles Times declaring there is probably more disloyalty per square foot in Wisconsin than anywhere else in the country, and the Washington Post thinking there may be few spots as intensely pro-German as there are in Wisconsin. Those who held the view that Wisconsin had a disloyalty problem usually cited three reasons for their perception. First and foremost were the state's national representatives, who had overwhelmingly voted against America's entrance into the European War. When Congress voted on April 6, 1917, one of Wisconsin's 2 senators and 9 of its 11 representatives voted to keep the United States out of the war, a stance many viewed as unpatriotic. The state's senior senator, Robert M. La Follette, continued to irritate self-described patriots by maintaining America should have stayed out of the war even after the vote. By the end of 1917, he had become identified as the most disloyal, unpatriotic American in the nation. Secondly, Wisconsin had an active socialist party which, like La Follette, had not supported America's entrance into the war. Finally, Wisconsin had a large, vocal, and politically active German American population who did not want the United States to go to war with its homeland. In response to this perception of Wisconsin as a place of rife with treason and disloyalty, a number of citizens throughout the state, but mainly in Milwaukee, made a concerted attempt to change the message. Historians have called those who pushed an extreme version of patriotism during World War I super patriots or hyper patriots. My preferred term in Wisconsin hyper patriotic groups generally consisted of those who identified as stalwart Republicans rather than progressive. Lest we forget is a phrase commonly used in war remembrance services and commemorative occasions in English-speaking countries, usually those connected to the British Empire. Before the term was used in reference to soldiers and war, it was first used in an 1897 Christian poem written by Rudyard Kipling called Recessional, a poem written to commemorate Queen Victoria's Diamond Jubilee. The phrase occurs 8 times and is repeated at the end of the first 4 stanzas in order to add particular emphasis regarding the dangers of failing to remember. God of our fathers, known of old, Lord of our far-flung battle line beneath whose awful hand we hold dominion over palm and pine, Lord God of hosts, be with us yet, lest we forget, lest we forget. The concept of being careful not to forget was already present in the Bible. Deuteronomy 4:7-9. For what nation is there so great, who hath God so nigh unto him, as the Lord our God is in all things that we call upon him for? And what nation is there so great, that hath statutes and judgments so righteous as all this law, which I set before you this day? Only take heed to thyself and keep thee so diligently, lest thou forget the things which thine eyes have seen, and lest they depart from thee heart all the days of thee life, but teach them thee sons and thee sons' sons. This biblical quote is probably a direct source for the term in the 1897 poem. This is consistent with the main theme of the recessional poem, that if a nation forgets the true source of its success, the Lord God of hosts, and his ancient sacrifice of a humble and contrite heart, its military or material possessions will be insufficient in times of war. The poem Recessional also appears as a common hymn at war remembrance services, and the phrase "lest we forget" can hence be sung. The phrase later passed into common usage after World War I across the British Commonwealth, especially becoming linked with Remembrance Day and Anzac Day observations. It became a plea not to forget past sacrifices and was often found as the only wording on war memorials or used as an epitaph. David Rife An American academic and the son of New York intellectual Susan Sontag argues that to recall the past, as in the phrase "lest we forget," is a far too celebrated activity, implying we should not commemorate those who have fallen in war. Much of what we think of today as Milwaukee's lakefront wasn't there when the first Europeans began to settle in this area in the early 1800s. As the city developed, land was platted for development nearly all the way to the ends of the tall bluffs that then lined the lakefront, leaving precious little space for public lands along the water. The lakefront we know today was the result of massive landfill projects over the past 100 plus years that were engineered to maximize both its industrial and recreational potential. Thank you all for watching this video. See you all in the next one.